I've been very curious about apps like Tinder. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Abigail Schreier about this the other day, because there's some evidence that young people are having much less sex than they were 20 years ago. And so I've wondered with apps like Tinder, if what's happening is that a small number of men are getting a tremendous amount of sexual attention from women, and a huge number of men are getting none at all. And the guys that are attractive, say on Tinder, then have their selection. They have women who've already said yes, because that's the only people you communicate with on Tinder, if I understand it correctly. And so they have all these women at their disposal, essentially, and then almost no incentive, unless they're mature, to have a committed relationship. And so that puts the women in a terrible bind too, because the men that they find attractive are uncatchable in some sense, because the competition level is too high. And I have no idea if that's true, if that's actually something that is happening.
I feel like it's partially true. I feel like there's that level to it, exactly what you just said. But then there's also a psychological element that I think we aren't discussing, which is that men aren't necessarily attracted to prey that walks up to them and lays down dead. The hunting is gone. So I feel like a lot of times men can swipe and know, I can hook up with this girl tonight. Well,
maybe that's another conundrum. It's like, so, and I'm too old to be involved in any of this, so I don't understand it anymore. But if Tinder, for example, facilitates hookups, what happens if you go on a Tinder date and you're female and you say no? Like, are you out of the pool then? Are you no longer? So are you pushed constantly for instant sexual favors, let's say?
Tinder is hookup central. That's what you're going on Tinder for. Hinge is more looking for a relationship, maybe more.
Okay, so they're sorting themselves out, the apps.
They're sorting, but there's levels to it for sure, where there are certain apps that, if you're not going to hook up with them, you don't meet up with them. That's what that's for. This is our instant sex app. And then
I just can't see that being, I don't think that's in anybody's good interest. But I particularly think it's not in the good interest of young women. I also don't think it's in the good interest of young men, because I think it teaches them to be psychopathic predators fundamentally. No, I mean that. I don't see there's any way out of this, because if you repeatedly practice taking sexual intimacy out of the broader context, that's what you're practicing. Well, how is that not? It's shallow, because it's shallow by definition, because it's only the pursuit of hedonistic pleasure decontextualized. You don't know the person, you don't know their story, you're not involved in an ongoing adventure, you're not contributing to one another's lives, you're not dependent on each other, there's no relationship there. So
it's just a quick hit.
It's a quick contextless hit. Well, so then what is it? So then is it, if you practice interacting with women, but also with men, if you're a woman, as if they're a source of instant context-free gratification, how are you not training yourself to treat human beings as if they're nothing but instant sources of context-free gratification? And
you are, which is the same as the porn addiction, which is why I also feel like men are having less sex, is because they can just go onto any porn site at any time of day, or even Instagram, and see all these porn stars and naked women, get what they wanted out of an interaction with a woman, do it themselves, and then they have no reason to go on a date. They already got off. They don't care. And this is what I feel like myself and so many women I talk to have been sorting through, is a lot of these guys are already getting what they think they need. So when I might date a guy, I'll look at his Instagram. If he follows tons of porn stars, I don't even bother. That's
wise, I would say.
Thank you. They of course go, that's insecure. Why can't I look at all these girls? Are you insecure? I'm like, no.
No. It's so amazing to me that anyone would even think that wasn't a valid thing to do. I can't believe you'd ever get criticized for that. That's, I talked to Theodore Dalrymple. That's not his real name. It's Anthony Stevens, a psychiatrist, and he saw 15,000 people who had tried to commit suicide.
Ooh.
Yes, Wu is right. And these were people who were at the bottom of the economic hierarchy, devastated lives. And the women were often out with like psychopathic brutes. They were getting beaten all the time. And there were markers for that: shaved head, scars everywhere, tattoos on their fists, love and hate, that sort of thing, like obvious markers, you know?
Oh yeah, I should see those as obvious markers. They became so fashionable. I just thought it was fashion, but keep going.
Well, and that sort of thing also does happen. But his point was, there were these obvious markers, but they weren't being paid attention to. It's, well, what you just described, well, that's an obvious marker to me. It's so obvious that I can't believe that you would be criticized for, and to say that that's a mark of insecurity.